Michael Gorman with Engadget, and we're here in Mountain View on Google's campus. We're surrounded by the Googlers. We've got all the froyo and ice cream sandwich statues around. But today we're here to talk with one of the engineers that make Google Translate possible. So let's go check it out.
Google Translate is a free online service for translating text, documents, web pages, anything you come across online and need to translate. It works by looking for patterns in text. So think about if you were learning a language, you would learn some vocabulary words, you'd start learning some rules. It's hard to teach a computer all those rules. There's just too many rules to teach a computer. So we let the computer learn those rules themselves. The way that we do that is to teach the computer how to find patterns in existing text. So we feed into the computer millions and billions of translations that have already been done and allow it to find statistically significant patterns in that text. Or an easy way to say that is patterns that wouldn't occur randomly, right? So they had to happen for a reason, which is because they're actual translations. So the system will learn those patterns in translation, and when you give us new text, it allows us to compute the most probable translation of that new text that you gave us. Machine translation has actually been around kind of since the beginning of the electronic computer. In the 1950s, there was an experiment done to translate from Russian to English using a computer, and it had amazing success. Amazing excitement. The press was all over it, front page of the New York Times, front page of all sorts of papers. They thought they'd solve machine translation within 3 to 5 years. We all know that didn't quite work out as fast as they wanted it to, but they used a rules-based system. Their system had 6 rules, 300 vocabulary words, and that's how a lot of systems for the next 20, 30 years work that way. So we take a more general approach in statistical machine translation to allow the system to learn those rules. Instead of having a handful of language experts teach the computer all these rules, we let there be millions of experts who have already translated web pages and other documents, and we let the system learn from those already translated documents and learn those rules for itself. And we find that to be a much more scalable solution that can also really improve nicely the more data we give it. We do collect a lot of user feedback. We have a feature called Alternative Translation on our main translate.google.com, where when you see a translation, you can click on the phrases in that translation. And maybe we didn't produce quite the perfect phrase for your translation, but we'll show you some alternatives. Sometimes that's just helpful to see, like, oh, this phrase could be translated a few different ways. But then it's also helpful where you can actually click on the one that's better for your specific translation. We collect all that data and we process it offline and try to find ways that it can improve our system. Some of those documents, for example, come from the United Nations. The United Nations publishes all of their content in many different languages. That gives us terrific, high-quality translations, most of which produced by professional translators. Some really high-quality translations, very professionally done, very useful. It gives us really accurate signals within our system. But it's really a very small source of data compared to the total amount of data our system is able to use. We believe Translate fits into Google's core mission of making the world's information universally accessible. And so in doing so, we want to make sure that whenever you access information that's not in your language, you can get a translation. So to do that, we've integrated Google Translate in many different Google properties. Some you may be familiar with, like Google Chrome has a great feature that whenever you visit a web page not in your language, it pops up a little bar and says, hey, this is in French, do you want to translate it? And then you get a lightning fast translation, and it's really useful. We're excited to keep pushing Google Translate to our users everywhere they need it. So whether it's inside Gmail, inside Google+, in Google Search, whenever you access content that's not in your language, we want you to have a quick, easy way to get a translation.
So that's it. We came to Mountain View. Google spilled its secrets on Translate. We liked what we heard. We hope you guys liked what you heard. And we know that T-Rex liked what he heard. So that's it. Until the next time, we'll see you then.